Emily Miller of the Washington Times with us once again. Thanks so much for coming on the program tonight, Emily.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Well, listen, we love having you on talking about Washington, D.C. gun laws, but in your latest piece in the Washington Times, you're taking a look at the national election picture, in particular, what the NRA is doing this election year and what Mayor Michael Bloomberg is doing this election year. And I got to tell you, both pro and anti-gun forces are very, very busy.
That's right. I mean, this has really come down to we're going to see millions of dollars in ads in the swing states in the next couple of weeks from both sides of the gun debate. I have to say, the NRA and, whether it's Wayne LaPierre or David Keene, they've said for 2 years now that if Obama wins a second term, he's going to start banning guns. And people on both sides, said that's an exaggeration. They're doing that deliberately to get, people ginned up.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't true because, Obama has been very careful in these past 4 years of not saying anything about gun control, even though he has this history in Illinois of supporting gun control laws. He's quiet. But that all changed in the second debate at Hofstra when he got that gun control question, and he accidentally slipped, I think, and sort of confessed his real beliefs, which is he wants to reinstate the so-called assault weapons ban, and he didn't even say the same parameters as it used to be, so who knows what could be included in that.
Right.
And he also even expanded on that, and he started talking about banning cheap handguns, which who knows what he qualifies as cheap. He could say, anything less than $5,000 is cheap, and then ban all handguns. Who knows? And then went on and on about assault weapons and automatic weapons, as if the criminals were walking around with them. We all know that's completely not true. So he's, deliberately fear-mongering. So that really changed the playing field because suddenly, the votes that really count right now are in the swing states. Those are big hunting states, a lot of gun owners there. And they're hearing the president say, I want to take away a lot of your rifles in a second term.
Right.
And that really changed things. And so I think, the NRA has been, has been shown to be accurate in their predictions of what Obama would do. And, I think it was not exaggerated. And, it's been proven that, the other side is going to spend huge amounts of money. Like you said, Mayor Bloomberg announced last week that he's going to put $15 million of his own money into a super PAC to spend just in the next 2 weeks to attack those members, Republicans mainly, who don't support gun rights or pro-Second Amendment, and to support those Democrats mostly who are for more gun control laws. And so the NRA has this, massive ground organization they've had really in all these states since May, I think. So they really have a huge grassroots, and they've talked to millions of people, whether it's by phone or direct mail. So what it's going to come down to between the two sides are these TV ads, which both are spending millions in the next few weeks on TV ads.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, Emily. I saw this quote from Bloomberg in, I think it was New York Magazine, when he was talking about his spending. And New York Magazine said, Bloomberg is not revealing who he's donating money to, in part to maintain his tactical edge, and in part because basically he knows he's toxic, and he knows his views are toxic. He gave $500,000 to Angus King, who's running for the Senate in Maine as an independent, and Angus King was immediately forced to disavow Bloomberg's position on gun control. And Angus King said, we had a fundraiser, but we never talked about guns, I swear. Compare that to what the NRA is doing out there with these blaze orange hats. I mean, really, you talk about visibility and wanting to be visible. Compare that to Bloomberg. I don't really want to talk publicly about who I'm giving money to. The NRA and its members are out there and are very visible in the last 2 weeks before the election.
Well, you're right. That's the big difference in this last 2 weeks and what you're going to see in these ads is the gun control ads are coming from one source, which is one liberal billionaire in New York. So he's the one funding it. This is not in the best interest of the Democratic Party, can tell you that much. It's not in the best interest of Obama, that's for sure, in the swing states to have these ads up, versus the NRA, which is supported by its members, which has, I think, now 5,000 volunteers in the swing states actively working, going to gun shows, making phone calls, going to ranges, things like that. And that's, such a grassroots effort. And that's where, this race is going to be won on the grassroots. It's not going to be won by this sort of liberal billionaire in New York. I mean, he just can't buy this election.
No, I think you're right. And that's, the NRA spending money in these battleground states, again, that's designed to motivate gun owners and get them to the polls. Remind them of what the president has said and what the president's, flexibility would be, quote unquote, in a second term. Whereas Bloomberg can't talk gun control because, in a lot of these states where he's supporting candidates, he knows it's a loser issue. He knows he has to run it as a stealth campaign and approach it from these other angles, which, again, I think Emily just speaks to the heart of the matter, and that is that a majority of the American people don't support Michael Bloomberg's agenda.
It's absolutely true, and but it's what it's going to come down to, like we just both said, is who shows up in these swing states on election day, and not even just the presidential election, which is huge, but all this congressional elections in the House and the Senate, and even the state elections, and it is going to be a matter of turnout and who's more engaged and who's out there. And I think, you saw this in the past week. The NRA has, after Obama made this big slip, the NRA changed its TV ads and website ads, but primarily it's TV ads, and it went from being a generic sort of general push against Obama and his stacking the Supreme Court to his specifically shows him in 2008 saying, I don't want to take away your rifles, I don't want to take away your shotguns, I don't want to take away your handguns, and then flashed forward to this Hofstra debate where he says, I want an assault weapons ban, I've got to get guns out of the hands of the criminals, we want to restrict cheap handguns. So, it's such a black and white ad, and showing that in these states where right now everyone's out hunting because it's deer hunting season, that's a powerful message.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Emily, glad you could be with us on the program tonight. We got to talk about, Cameron just reminded me, the line of the night, bayonets. Have you ever seen, the debates just keep getting sillier and sillier. I'm glad they're over, Emily.
I can't imagine how Obama came up with the bayonets and horses line that. He must have been working on that for 6 years. It's unbelievable. But I have to say, I've been tweeted to quite a lot today at Emily Miller from people who are sharpening their bayonets in a bayonet sharpening store. And, I think it shows that bayonets are much more common than Mr. Obama thinks, even in the civilian world. And, I'll tell you, just out of, just wanting to support the right of bayonets, yeah. I really feel like I want to find one that can attach the end of my handgun that I can put here in D.C. Do you think that violates any of D.C.'s gun laws?
I was going to say, I think Mayor Gray is going to be calling on your other line here any minute. It may start blinking.
I see the flashing sirens coming my way.
Well, listen, Emily, there's a group out there. I need to introduce you to Doug Ritter from Knife Rights and kniferights.org. I think you guys would get along famously.
I think so, too. Well, considering I can't even get mace legally in D.C., I'm really sure I can't get a knife legally in D.C.
No, but you're working on it, and we love talking with you. Emily, thank you again, and look forward to doing this again very soon.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
You bet. Emily Miller of the Washington Times with us tonight here on Cam & Company.